So welcome everyone. This is yet another in the series of what's up with your future? What are you going to do in the world? How are you going to make the world a better place? And the way we're approaching it is by examining closely the teachings of the Holy Order of Mans and how we can best implement them in our lives. So tonight we're going to talk about prayer, and which is something that we all need to know how to do. We have to review it and see if we're doing it right, because we don't always know if we're doing it right. So, and a good way to tell if you're doing it right is if you are, your prayers are getting answered. You get what you're praying for. You're not doing it right, then you have trouble doing that. So it's kind of a measurable, very, it either is or isn't kind of thing. So we're going to look at that real closely. So I'm going to read for a while. So if you wouldn't mind all muting your microphones, I will stop maybe halfway through and ask if there are any questions. And then when I'm done reading, then we'll open it up for discussion. Prayer is the method we use to communicate with the great creative intelligence we call God. We call it the law of prayer because prayer is a scientific principle, meaning that God created it so that it works every time. God is a loving creator who gave us a precise way to ask for and receive whatever we need or want. The first step in scientific prayer is knowing what you're going to pray for. The picture in your mind must be detailed, and you must be unconflicted about what you want. So I want to talk about that for a little bit. How many of us are actually unconflicted about what we want? Sometimes we really know what we want and there's not a conflict in us about it. Like we know we want to breathe, right? You want to breathe. And if somebody tries to stop you from breathing, you will do anything to keep them from doing that and to regain your breath. So you have to ask yourself, is what you're praying for as important to you as breathing? That sounds kind of, extreme, but kind of have to look at it that way. Kind of have to, what an organizational chart looks like, where you have, the main thing at the top, and then you get the subcategories and it works its way down the tree. What's at the top of that tree for you? What's the main thing that you want? And if you don't know that, you're going to have a really hard time praying, because if you pray for something and it's not in alignment with that thing, you're going to have problems. And you're going to have problems in direct proportion to how much it's aligned with your innermost desire, like breathing, right? That's what your body wants. Your body wants to breathe. It's the number one thing it wants to do. So what does your soul want? That's important. That's really important. So in all of our meditations and all of our prayer work and all of the spiritual work that we do, that should be really big on our minds. What am I about? What lights me up? What am I here for? Because we know we've lived many lives, and those lives are not disconnected. They're not unrelated. In fact, you might look at them like the movements in a symphony, where one builds upon the next. One sets up the next direction. You may be in a different zodiacal configuration altogether, but it's going to have to be characteristically similar to this lifetime, right? And this lifetime is characteristically similar to the last lifetime. You have a thread that runs all the way through all of your consecutive lifetimes. It makes sense that they would. Otherwise, it would be chaotic. You'd be showing up with something entirely different and not know what to do. But because the lifetimes they're like trains they're like cars on a train, like a freight train. You got this car, and right behind it, there's another and another and another and another, and they're all going in the same direction. Well, all your lifetimes are the same way. I don't know why I'm talking about reincarnation, but there it is, because it has to do with your prayers. What are you praying for? And we say that our actions are our prayers. And a good psychologist will say, if you really want to know what a person, you wouldn't use these words, but if you really want to know what a person is praying for, look at what they do. That's how you tell. What are their actions? Their actions will not lie. So take that and turn it around on yourself and look at yourself. What are my actions? What am I doing? What do I, what's the first thing I do in the morning? What's the last thing I do before going to bed at night? Things like that. You see, learn to recognize your own patterns, because as you do, you're going to find out what you're actually praying for. So your mind thinks it wants something, but your heart, and you use the heart as like a metaphor for the soul, your soul knows what it wants. Your mind is, generally speaking, and usually disconnected from your soul consciousness. Not a good thing, right? So you want to make a lot of your spiritual work about simply discovering who you are, right? And one of the ways we do that is we get to know ourselves. We find out what we're made of. We find out what what are the games that we play. How do we try to scam other people? What kind of rackets are we involved in? Like, I'll overlook what you're doing if you overlook what I'm doing. You see, that kind of thing. That's what I mean. And if you work on self-knowledge, you'll know those things about yourself. You won't be afraid to look at them square in the eye. And all of this has to do with the efficacy of your prayer. How powerful is your prayer? And what makes it powerful is how well aligned it is all the way down into the core of you, all the way down. And if you've got any misalignments in there, like you're out of whack skeletally and you need to go see a chiropractor, you've got to have a chiropractor for your soul, and you're it, right? You're it. You're the chiropractor for your own soul. So anything that's out of alignment, you got to find out what that is. Find out. And good thing to pray for is to have God show you. But be careful. Be sure you really want to know, because you're going to find out. If that's your prayer, you're going to find out. And if something is out of alignment in your external life, because the conditions in your external life are largely due to your actions, what you're doing. So you can look around at your external life and say, yep, that's what I prayed for. You see, this is it. This is what I got. I prayed for it and I got it. You see, that's it. It's so simple. And so you want to avoid any that you want to avoid the blame game. You don't want to blame other people or conditions like the economy or the son of a bitch in the White House or any of that stuff. The more you do that, the more you're not taking responsibility for yourself. I said that about the guy in the White House because it's a line from a movie, Raising Arizona, one of my favorite movies. So any of these external factors, they're easy to blame your current conditions on, but they're just excuses, because you're not in alignment with what you want, what you really want. And we have to kind of make a distinction between what we think we want and what we really want, because the mind gets easily distracted and by shiny things. So You want to make sure you study your desires, because your desires are not necessarily what you want. We have desires, and then we have these deep soul desires. The head desires and the soul desires, very seldom do they align properly. And that's why people don't believe in prayer, because they're out of alignment, and nothing that they pray for gets answered because they're standing in their own way. Now, if you have something that you think that you want, you know, I'm not saying that everything that you think you want is wrong. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that really examine your wants, what you think you want. Really examine them. Examine your desires. So and find out what they are. You may, you know, like the classical thing in advertising, you know, when they advertise cars, they're not selling a car. They're not selling you transportation. The number one thing they sell you when they're selling you a car is status. You see, they're selling you status, because why else would you pay $150,000 for a car? Only reason you would pay that, well, unless you really like to drive, then you know that. But mostly it's just status. That's what they're selling you. So when you say, I want to buy a car, I want a car, I'm going to pray for a car, what are you really praying for? You're praying for transportation, because a Honda Accord will do that really well. But if you're praying for status, then nothing less than a Mercedes-Benz is going to do, right? So but you got to know that about yourself. You got to know that. And then, and is it wrong? Is it wrong to want status? No, no, of course not. It's only wrong if you're lying to yourself about it. Then it's wrong, you see? But if you're out front, you say, yeah, I want to look good. I want to have a car that tells everybody that I'm doing all right, you know, and not just all right, but I'm doing really well, that kind of thing. If you can be honest about that, then your prayer will get answered. But if you're fooling yourself, oh, I just, you know, Mercedes-Benz is a really reliable car, and it's built by Germans, and so we know it's built well, and it's going to last forever. And so if I amortize the cost of the car over, you know, blah, 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 blah. You see, that's all bullshit. You're just bullshitting yourself. So get clear about that. Get clear about what you want. And when you do, then when you pray for something like a healing, you're going to have everything's going to be working on the inside. Your pipeline to God is going to be clean. It's not going to be all twisted and filled with junk. Anybody have an example? What they want? What they think they want? What do you think you want?
Hello. So for 30 years, I've wanted a home.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, I've prevented myself from receiving that prayer for a long time. And now that I'm finally getting that prayer answered, now I'm like, what do I want now? Because that was like a 30-year mantra, you know?
Uh-huh.
And,
Uh-huh.
and so like, you know, now that I'm getting that, now it's like, what's next? Who am I now?
Who
You
are
know, I'm not,
you? Right.
right? I'm not
Yep.
that person who now still wants something. Now I have something. So what do I do with it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So one of the things that that keeps us from getting it, you know, and you nailed it. You nailed it, right? It's because it's who you are. And if who you are is somebody who's always complaining about not having a home, and then you get a home, what are you going to complain about now? You see, got to have something to complain about, right?
Have
I mean, we are known by our complaints.
Yep.
Especially to ourselves. We know about, you know, because everybody is more tuned in to what to threat than they are to opportunity, right? That's just the way our brains are wired. If you're walking down a jungle path 25,000 years ago, and there's a bush full of berries on the right, and there's a tiger on the left, you're going to really pay more attention to the tiger than you are to the berries, right? The tiger, that's an immediate concern. The berries, you can take them or leave them, even if you're really, really hungry. See, so our brains are wired for threat way more than they're wired for opportunity. So complaining is kind of a way that keeps that circuitry alive, you know, because we complain about things we don't like. So, but see there, it's beautiful because now you got the first step. You know that you want a home, but do you know why you want a home and why you're unhappy with what you got now? See, what is it about a home? What do you believe
Right.
about a home that's going to fix your problems? And what are your, I'm not asking you to confess anything here. I'm just using it as an example. Unless you want to confess. I mean, we are all ears, you know.
And I think the prayer of myself believing I had to have that was answering itself over and over and over again in noisy neighbors and annoyances and breakdowns and calamities around the home, because oh yes, that's another reason why I need a home. So the
Exactly.
prayer just keeps answering itself.
Yeah.
You're saying you need a home. The universe is going, yeah, you need a home.
See, let me prove it to you. Of course, really, you're proving it to yourself, right? You're setting
Yeah,
things up. And so, because it gives you justification, right?
exactly.
Yeah. So a little bit of self-knowledge goes a long way when it comes to getting what you pray for. And, you know, let's be clear. We live in a creative environment. We live the world we live in is only an appearance of something that underlies the world, and that underlying strata or element of the world is creative. It's a creative mind, a creative intelligence. So we're constantly thinking into that, and it's continually giving back to us what we think into it. But being the physical plane, and I'm getting metaphysical on you now. In the physical plane, there's a time lag. And thank God for that. Because just imagine what it would be like if everything manifested like that. We'd be screwed because we'd get scared, you know, we'd worry about something and then boom, there it would be. So there's a time lag, and that time lag tends to keep everything in its present condition. It takes time to change something because it's always feeding back to us a stable image of what's here. And I'm not saying that the world's not real. I'm not saying that at all. This stuff, that's solid. That's really solid. You can't bang your head into a wall without it hurting, right? But that's the nature of the thing. It's still feeding back to us what we're thinking into it. And then there's the consensus thinking, right? The mass mind, and that exists on many levels. So, you know, hierarchically, you have some people in the earth and in your life whose thinking actually is more powerful than yours because they're more finely there's more resolution in their thoughts. And there are lots of people who just tend to go along with what those kinds of people are thinking, right? They kind of set the pace and everybody follows along. So it takes a lot of courage, actually, and a lot of imagination, and a lot of really getting clear with yourself, who you are, what you're about, to break out of that mind. You see, it's like a trap. It really holds people in it because number one, it's predictable, it's familiar, so you feel safer even if it's shitty. You feel safer because you know what to expect. It's like that saying, the better the devil you know than the devil you don't know, which is why change is so difficult, because we don't like the unknown, right? We like the known, we don't like the unknown. That can get in the way of your prayers. So the other thing that can get in the way of your prayers is just this innate knowledge we have that in order to get something that we don't have right now, we're going to have to give up something that we do have right now, because it's like we have a configuration that is adjusted to our energy level and our acceptance level. You know, we're only able to accept so much. So if we want to change something big like the home, you know, that's a major category. If we want to change that, something big has got to change. You got to move out of the house you're in. And that's scary. Or like if you want a good relationship, that means all the other relationships in your life are going to have to change. You know, and if you want a better relationship that you have with a person right now, one or the other or both of you are going to have to change in fundamental ways because something's not aligned, right? So that change will get in the way of getting your prayers answered. So that if something comes along that you do want, and you know, it's going to be harder to do because you're not being honest with yourself, you're not clear in yourself. So this is a very big deal. It's why I'm going on and on about it. It's like, are you willing to accept the thing you think you want? That's number one question. Are you willing to accept the thing that you think you want? And is what you think you want in alignment with what you really want? And so knowing what that is, probably the most important thing in life, knowing what you want. And then the second most important thing in life is being true to that. It's one thing to know it, it's another thing to be true to it. And that can be really hard
I
because,
think,
you know, life.
I think the second thing for me was taking the leap of faith.
Yeah, yeah, a leap of faith. How much do you trust God? How much do you trust God? So the next step
You
in
won't know until you take the leap.
no, you got to know before you take the leap. That's the whole point of the leap, right? See, one's a leap and the other is a fall. That's the first thing you need to know. You need to know what you want, and you have to be okay with what you want, and there can't be any funny business going on with what you want. You got to be clear on that. You got to be willing to lay it all on the line, right? You have to be willing to take a risk. So that's number one. Number two is you have to contact the Father. There's a reason we call God the Father in this context. You see, in a different context, we call God the Mother. But in this context, we call God the Father, because what we're doing is we are injecting a seed idea into the creative field of the mind of the great creative intelligence. It's like a farmer casting seeds. In order to understand God, we've created this story that closely reflects us. And one of the main things about life on this earth is procreation. So we have father, mother, child. And we know how that works. And we know what the child is and what the child becomes, and how the child then becomes another father, mother, child. You see, at the base of this is procreation. Now it's physical procreation. That's the base level. The next level is like emotional procreation, how one emotion gives birth, you know, causes implants itself into other emotions, and those emotions then develop and gestate and produce a third emotion. You see, one, two, three, father, mother, child. That's why we call God in the context of prayer, in asking, you see, in initiating, in planting the seed. That's why we call God the Father, because we are acting as God the Father. You see, we're in that aspect when we imagine something that we want and we consciously and deliberately put it into the creative intelligence that we call God. So it's important. We want to be clear that these terms are not just hierarchical or oppressive or trying to keep women down or exalt men over women. Oh no, that's not what this is about at all, because you can be a father regardless of your sex. I can be a mother regardless of mine. We all have both polarities going on. And that's the key here. And it's like the basic understanding of the Trinity, where you have Father, Mother, Child. Let's do that instead of Father, Mother, Holy Spirit, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Father, Mother, Child. Because when we contact God, we are putting ourselves, we are connecting with the non-dual state. We are connecting with the one that is non-dual. It's not two, it's one. Know, O Israel, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. That means when we contact the Father, what we're doing is we're going within to that field, that energetic frequency where there is no duality. It's all one thing, it's all one frequency, and it's broad and it's deep and it's quiet. There's no time, there's no space. It's all, it's like the highest state of consciousness we can reach. It's what Jesus called the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. And what other religions have different names for it, but it's all the same thing. So we go in and we know when we get there, because everything turns to light and time stops and there is no such thing as space, because we're in that non-dual state of consciousness. That's where you go when you pray. You can't, and Jesus said, it's not over there, it's not over here, it's not over there, it's not up in the sky, it's not in the water, all of those things, remember? Said it's no place. It's no place. The kingdom of heaven is within. It's within you, and not in your body, you know, not when we say you, we don't mean your body, right? Your body is just your body. And where are you in your body? You know, most people think they're right here, right in the forehead, right behind the bridge of their nose. That's in the frontal cortex. That's where we locate ourselves most of the time, either there or in the eyes, right? So a very simple exercise you can do is take your consciousness out of your forehead and move it to the back of your head. You do that, your thinking stops, because you're one step closer to that non-dual state. And if you want to get closer yet, don't stop at the back of your head. Go a little bit behind the back of your head. You see? You can't do that by turning around and looking at it. You can't do it by looking at it at all, because your eye, if you try to look at it, if you try to imagine it and see it, you're right back in your forehead. You see? Because that's where, you formulate those things. The vision centers are more in the back of your head, but the looking part is in the forehead. So when you stop looking and you just back into it, all of a sudden things get real quiet, because the brain's going, what are we doing? It's like short circuiting the brain. This is a brain hack. It's a way to hack your own brain, to keep it from chattering. So you back into that consciousness and you back up even further. And the more you do, the more expansive and spacious it gets in there. That's the Father. You see, that's the creative impulse, because in there you've got that, they call it the void, they call it empty, but it's only empty of form. It's not empty of awareness, and it's not empty of power, and it's not empty of intention. So you have this burgeoning awareness that is full of intention, but without intending anything. You see, it's like pure awareness, pure intention, pure, unlimited, infinite power. So that's what you're connecting with, that when you go in to connect to contact the Father. So this is what you should be doing in your meditation. And then once you get a handle on that, then you want to start praying from there. Because the formula is know what you want, be real clear, don't have any conflicts, then contact the Father. And then the next step is to ask. And what's that about? You see, what's different about asking? than just saying something, right? We all know the difference. When we have to ask for something, we know that that's a whole different frequency. That's a whole different state of being. Asking is very different from just thinking or saying something. You have to get into a receptive mode. You have to be humble, right? And you have to admit that what you're asking for, you don't have yet. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking. So there's a powerful energy shift in your being when you ask. So just imagine this: you know what you want, but you clear it out of your mind, and then you back up into the one, into the non-dual state of consciousness, and everything is bright and everything is expansive, and you just fall back into it, and you leave your normally what you think of as yourself. You start seeing that receding away from you. It's out in front of you because you're leaving it. You're backing away from it, but you're backing into a place that's more real than anything you can see. The farther in you go, the more real it gets. Then imagine, then once you're in that space, then shifting the energy of you into a humble asking. And this is where love comes in, because you have to fall back into it. It's as though you're falling back into a loving embrace. And this is where the trust comes in. I know a lot of people who are afraid to meditate because they think if they go in there, there are monsters. There be monsters in there. The only reason there are monsters in there is because they haven't dealt with the monsters. They haven't gone to fight the dragons. You see, so they've got unresolved stuff. So the last thing they want to do is to go within, because there's that dweller on the threshold, the thing that they haven't taken care of. So this is all, it's kind of elaborate, but it's not really. It's not really. It's really very simple. You've got to go within in order to contact God. God is not in the sky. God is not in the ocean. God is not anywhere, and he's not even inside your body. We know that. God is within you. You are not your body. You are a point of awareness in the great mind of God. And you got this thing around that we call the soul. It's kind of the record. It's your memory. It's your cosmic memory. So you've got that, but you go within that. You see, you're going within you. It's everybody's aware to some degree, and little kids are aware of it too, especially when they say, "Mommy or Daddy, where do I come from?" And then everybody goes, "Whoa, the birds and the bees," and they got to start talking to this little kid about sex. And no, that's not what the kid's asking at all. Not at all. They're asking, where does this that I am, my consciousness, my awareness, where's my being, where does that come from? Because we all have a sense that we are like a stream, like we are constantly streaming into the world. That part of our being is like a stream of consciousness. And a little child wants to know, what is, who am I? What is that? And where does that come from? Because their consciousness is clear. It's a lot purer than an adult's, because we confuse ourselves the older we get, because we identify with what is seen rather than where what is seen comes from. Where does everything that we experience, where does that emerge? Where does a river begin? All of this, these are the steps. This is how we pray. We have to know what we want. We have to be clear about it. We have to be able to contact, to go within. We have to go up that stream to the source of the stream and enter into that. And that is the unknown. That is non-dual consciousness. That is something that does not compute either in the brain, the eyes, or anything. It's not part of this. It is before this. So in order to get to it, you have to back away from all of this and go within. And when you think you're within, then you go within some more. And even there, you start backing into it. It's some more. This is where the terminology neti comes from. Not this, not that. Because when you go within, then you think you're there and you go, nope, got to go in farther. Go in farther and, oh, wow, this is something. No, not this either. It takes work. You got to really work at it. But once you get it, you'll never have to work at it again, because all you have to do then is think about it, and boom, you're there. And then once you're there, then you can live in there. You can live from there. one of the stories about Jesus, when he prayed, he would say to the Father, I want this. I want this. And there it would be. See, there's the loving relationship between God and us. You have to get to the place where your prayer is, I want this, because there's no conflict. There's not part of me that doesn't want it. All of me wants it. And my trust is so complete that I can say without emotion, without anxiety, I want this. That's where you want to get to in your prayer. All right. So
Mhm.
what do you think? What's this bringing up for you?
Hi everyone. I would like to say something. Yeah, so what I heard and what I feel is, I mean, instantly I thought, oh, I need clarity of thought. I mean, that is one of the things that I need, but more than that, it is what is my intention? So the intention behind this wish or desire will decide whether it becomes a resolution or not. It's like, the New Year's Eve, all those resolutions. Why do some of them fade away? I mean, you don't even see the whole of 1st Jan, and you're already saying maybe just one more smoke. And so, yeah, that's something I really want to, ponder on. Yeah, thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thanks for the question. I call it the tyranny of shoulds, because we want what we think we should want, and we're very cowardly when it comes to wanting what we really want, because that's
Mm.
dangerous. It's really hard
Yeah,
to
yeah.
admit. And here's the thing. I might want to kill someone. Somebody pisses me off enough, I might want to kill them. Now, in order for me to be in alignment, I don't have to kill them, but I have to admit to myself that that's what I want. You see, I have to say, yeah, I'm that guy. I'm that guy that given the right circumstances, I would kill this person. Once you do that, once you admit that about yourself without a lot of guilt and, trying to argue or, weasel your way out of that, it's like, if you can really admit, yeah, I've got that capacity in me. It's like, most people today think that when they think about the Holocaust, they believe that they themselves would be a Schindler, or the people who are hiding, you know, hiding Jews in their attic. Most of you ask anybody, and oh yeah, that's who I would be. When really, I mean, that's not at all who they would be. The most likely thing that they would have been would be just like all those other people, because you don't know what you would do if your life was threatened, in the life of everybody that, out of self-preservation, you might go along with the program, right? And the odds are very high that you would, because Schindlers and people like that are very rare. And of course, hindsight is always 2020, right? And reality, the world has a way of disguising itself. It does the same thing over and over, but it disguises itself to make it look like it's something different. So there could be something just as horrendous going on now. We're blind to it because it's different. That's why they say history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. You see, it's not gonna show up just like it did in Nazi Germany. It could show up in a totally different way, but be exactly the same thing, because it would be characteristically the same. We have to be honest with ourselves, because once you admit to yourself that, yeah, that's in me, I have the capacity for something like that or worse. Once you admit that, it gives you a kind of mastery of it. It gives you agency in it. So in other words, you can realize that about yourself, but it doesn't mean you have to trot it out and put it to work, right? It's like you are capable of being a monster, but you have a leash on that monster. So the monster is not running you, you're ruling it. It's like key 8 in the tarot. She's holding the lion, the red fierce lion that's sharp in teeth and claws, and it's fierce. It's just immediately fierce, but she's gently holding it. She's not turning it into a pussycat. That lion is always a lion, but she has, by not trying to turn it into a pussycat, by letting it be what it is, she's able to hold it and restrain it. And that's what we call self-restraint. That's the first rule of strength. I mean, he who is mastered himself is master over all. Self-restraint is the greatest strength there is. But you can't even exercise self-restraint if you're not allowing yourself to see what there is there to be restrained. In other words, you're not being honest with yourself. You know, a man may want to cheat on his wife because of societal and marital, understandings and right and wrong, good and bad, all of that stuff. He may deny that, so I'm not that kind of guy. And then every time he looks at another woman, he's all, bunched up with guilt and then he does all kinds of crazy things, right? I mean, and then he asks himself, why did I do that? I'm not that kind of person. Well, no, sir, you are that kind of person. But your biggest mistake is that you're lying to yourself about that. The person who acknowledges something like that about themselves, then he has the possibility of self-restraint. But if he's lying to himself about it, he has no possibility for, that kind of consciousness. That's out of his reach because he hasn't admitted to himself that movement of energy. And he's saying, no, that's not me. That's wrong. That's evil. That's bad. That's going to cost me everything. But if he acknowledges that and said, yeah, okay, I'm that, right? But that means that it's not me. That's like in the gospel according to Thomas. It said, blessed is the man who eats the lion, but it's not so great when the lion eats you. Because when you eat the lion becomes you. If the lion eats you, then you become the lion. And then you have no control, you have no ability for self-restraint at all, because you haven't admitted it to yourself. This is where the fundamentalists get it right. They say something like, confess your sins and you will be saved. That is so damned accurate.
The truth shall set you free.
Exactly. Confess, but who do you confess to? You confess to yourself. You see, you confess to yourself.
Usually the conflict, right, that has the most untapped potential for transformation and energy, right? Because it's the good, the things we judge as good or whatever that we integrate, it's.
Yeah. Well, it's more than the conflict, it's the lying. You said it, the truth, the truth shall set you free. So, the truth is not a fact. We're not talking about facts or knowledge. Right. That's not the truth. The truth is simply not lying. How do I really feel? It's like a stick of dynamite, in some situations. How often do we hide the way we're really feeling? Because if we bring it out, it's going to blow things up. But you can float that boat for a while, right? Yeah. But the lie eventually will break down because you can't suppress the truth forever. It will either come out and it'll either blow up your life from the inside out, or it will destroy your body. That's where a lot of illness comes from. Is from lying. Because you're lying. Because if you have an impulse to certain thing, and you're always squelching that impulse, thinking that it's not you when really it is, it's coming from within you, then that creates those conflicts. And those conflicts, yeah.
Sorry, it reminds me on the Bible, St. Paul talking about what a wretched man he is.
Exactly.
Like, what a wretched man I am. That which I would do, I do not. And that which I would not do, that I do.
Yep. That's what all of Paul is about. He's talking about that inner battle. It's like when Pilate asked Jesus, what is truth? And Jesus said something like, those who are mine, when they hear my voice, they know the truth. And so what is that? Jesus is our own inner being. Jesus is the God self within us. Jesus is that point from which we emerge into existence. That's what the Christ is. That point within us. It's that portal, that opening that connects the non-dual to the dual. And we are that portal, and through that portal comes a truth, not facts, not ideas. It's not ideas. It's the existence, it's the being, the truth of being, and that has great power in its own signature, energetic signature. We all recognize it. We recognize it like, Robin Williams. Remember, how he could just kill you with laughter, just totally take you apart. But it was because we were recognizing truth. He was very truthful. He would say just whatever came through. Which is always funny. But that's what we need to practice that. God, just think a little bit about the things he would do on stage, and especially not on TV, but in a concert, in a comedy routine. Oh my God. People would cringe, but they would be drawn to it like magnets because it was true. It was the truth of his own being. And when you get that deep into truth, then everybody's going to recognize it. Everybody will hear their name. They will hear their own voice. You see, the greatest comedian is the one who speaks for us. We got to get into that. We got to let go of these, these constraints that are artificial and fear driven. If you're in a place in your life where you cannot speak truth because of the people around you, get the hell out of there. You see, either that or get them in line. Because if you're doing that to other people in your life, don't stop that. Don't do that, because you're killing them and you're killing yourself in the process. That's what it's really talking about when in the 10 Commandments, when it says, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder. Do not murder yourself. Do not murder other people by forcing them to be who they are not. In the orders of marriage ceremony, there's a very powerful line that says, you free each other to be themselves. You free the other person to be themselves, which is kind of like saying, I'm going to let you be whoever you really are, and I'm not going to run away from that. I'm not going to use that as an excuse to bail. And if you don't wind up killing each other, then it turns into a pretty good marriage.
Well, it really honors yourself to make that vow to someone, right? Because then you give yourself the freedom as well, right?
But it's got to work both ways.
Yeah.
So the way to pray is to make sure that first that you're being honest, that you're not lying, because you can't lie to God. But if you're conflicted on the inside and you're not really honest with yourself, that's the same as lying to God. And then your message to God, your ask to God is, ambiguous, it's conflicted, it's contradictory. You say you want this, but no, I try to give it to you, and then you clench up, what's going on. You see, that's what the great creative intelligence is going to be thinking. It's like, well, he's, not really clear yet, so, and God's not going to break through that. Makes life really interesting. Somebody should sell tickets. I'd buy one. Isn't this great? This is a great way to delve into the teachings. You see, it really makes them real. This is not philosophy. We don't want it to be a philosophy. We want it to be real.
Yeah. I know. I can recall, the builders of the Adytum, they have the Paul Case organization. Their mail order classes, now I think they're all online, but I think they take roughly 12 years. Like if a person starts in the beginning and goes all the way to the end of the curriculum. But the very first lesson of the very first class, the first question they ask you is, what do you want?
I remember that lesson. Yeah.
The first lesson, the first page, they ask you, what do you want? We're talking a 12-year program.
Yep. Why do you think they put it first?
Because it's the most important question.
Yeah.
It because what we truly want comes from who we truly are. If we dive deep enough, because where else could it come from?
Yep. Well, I think the reason they put it first is because they wanted to weed out the people who weren't serious.
Mm. Well,
Because that
yeah,
lesson will strip the skin right off your bones.
oh yeah, but it gets to the heart of the matter, right? I mean, and
Oh yeah.
that's really it, and getting in touch with that desire, that's the fuel that's going to
Burn the house
bring,
down.
yes, burn the house down. That's right. That's right.
Sorry, Teresa. I don't mean to.
Not my house, no.
No, not my house. Just try. I dare you. So you guys, have you explored around on the Holy Order of Man's website? I encourage you to do that. And there's also, the holyorderofmans.com or .org. So we've got .com and .org, and on the .org site is all the curriculum and all the lessons, and there are a lot of resources there. So you want to look at that. And if you want to help with this, there's a donate button too. You can donate any amount you want, little or as much as you want. But it really helps, pay for the cost and to hopefully spread this opportunity to a greater audience. Because we're really kind of in the fledgling state of this. We really would like to bring this to as many people as possible. So if you want to be a part of that, click on that donate button.
Smash that donut button.
Smash that button.
What, donut? What?
Did you say donut? It's a donut button?